Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and I'm here today with Katerina and Daniel. We are starting The Warrior Prophet. It's the second book in the Prince of Nothing trilogy. We're going to be talking about chapters 1 through 4 today, the first 100 pages or so. So if you're reading along, we're trying to make it easy on you. so, Daniel, do you want to start us off with an introduction?
I'm Daniel. I've reread these books a couple times now. It's been fun to join along in this reread and have someone to talk about it with.
Yeah, and I'm Katerina, and this is my second time reading through The Warrior Prophet. And I realized that I remembered significantly less than The Darkness That Comes Before. So this is gonna be a exciting read, I think.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because the recap in the beginning of the book, I felt like if I didn't reread with you guys, if we didn't have these podcasts, I think it would have filled in a lot of gaps for me that I missed the first time I read the book, because I think it was almost like a nudge in case you missed it. This is kind of what happened, because it went from being everything was there but it wasn't too obvious to this is what happened. It was like, it was there were things that I wouldn't have noticed without both of you helping. So I wonder if that was on purpose to kind of make it easier on people that were coming back for the second book. Did either of you get that impression?
Well, I think Baker is nice in the way that he gives you the summary of the previous book in every new book that you read. And like, yeah, I do have a similar experience in that, especially in my first read. um Even if it's just a summary, he does connect some things that you might not have connected yourself, or he does put things into context to make it more obvious why he put those things there. So I think definitely they help, especially if you're not if you're not clear in some details or some plot points. Reading those summaries does help a lot.
And without someone like us here to reiterate certain things, I could see how you might kind of forget them as you read on,
Yeah, and the
or
re
have trouble figuring out who the unreliable and reliable narrators are when the truth's being told and when it's not. I think you mentioned something about Serway and Nair's and Kellis's relationship that you didn't, or you might not have caught from the previous book.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the things that well, there were some things that we talked about that wasn't in the recap that made me feel special because I felt like we were like ahead of the curve. But um, yeah, one of the things that I'm not sure if we've talked about it or I'm just a brick that missed it. But um, it does explicitly say that Kellis was courting Surway purposefully to for the purpose of kind of manipulating. I forget his name. Thank you.
Nair.
Neor. I couldn't remember how to pronounce it. So that was the reason he was courting Serway and was, paying attention to her because that was his way of manipulating, pulling strings, and um, getting getting some leverage on him or seeing how he reacts. And so that's something that I didn't quite catch. I'm not sure if we had talked about that or not.
I just told you that Kellis doesn't do anything without a purpose.
Yeah.
Every word's like a tool. He's listening to everything and just getting ready to use his tools, weapons, maybe even. And
Mm.
Serway might have a duality of reasons he kept her because she also worships him like a god. So it might help other people see him that way.
Yeah, and I think Callus himself tells Nayor that he is not capable of love. So, if he's not capable of loving Serway, there should be another reason why he's chosen to keep her around.
Poor Serway. we'll get to that. But yeah,
Mhm.
I did. If I hadn't been talking with about the first book with both of you the way we have been, I would have really appreciated that first recap because it there were things that I know I missed the first time. So I think it's nice to have the the little helping hand at the beginning.
The recaps just get bigger and bigger and kind of cooler and cooler too.
Hmm.
Like if you get to the second series, the recaps are pretty intense.
Yeah, I feel like in the second series, he might even include things he doesn't tell you in the books, possibly,
Just just
or
like
like
things that are
expands on,
alluded to, yeah.
yeah, or expands on them a little bit. So do read the summaries if you can.
Hmm. Interesting. So yeah, it was good stuff. Um, so the beginning, it is Aka know he goes all this time without knowing whether or not the consult really exists or not, and now he knows, and he's struggling with that. That's kind of just I just imagine being in that position of never knowing, and it's confirmed that all these things are happening. So kind of felt a little sorry for him.
Yeah, he's having full blown existential crisis in this first 100 pages. And I mean, like, you have to remember he is or he was one of the skeptics, like one of the people in the mandate who didn't really believe that this console was around anymore. So for him to have this revelation must be maybe even more shocking than for someone like Nutsera, who was like firmly believes that the console is still a big player in the three Cs.
Yeah, he's been going through some inner struggles, debating his faith to the school or just his faith to himself, I guess, as a teacher.
Yeah,
Because Akamian's a good teacher. He's just a terrible spy.
I don't know if you'd want to be one of his students though. They don't have such a great such a great track record. It seems like he's a good teacher, but if none of his students seem to survive very long.
Proteus is still doing good.
That's true. I
Well,
guess
relatively.
yeah.
Depends on the metrics, I guess, that you use.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe like that is the reason why he's so torn about the consult and about reporting to the mandate about Kellis because like I think where we start, he's already taken Kellis on as a student. Now he's
Mhm.
again in a position where he has to decide if he wants to if he'll betray him for his school and potentially for the sake of saving the world, or if he should be loyal to Kellis, to his student, and protect him. And I guess that's definitely adding on to the crisis of identity that he's going through right now.
Yeah, I think the question of do you save and Kellis must be pretty good at what he does for Eka to go back and forth whether it's worth his life to avoid an apocalypse or not. It seems like an easy decision, but
Maybe the apocalypse is just unavoidable, though, no matter what they do with him. And little do they know, but Kellis knows that there's already an Annis Remember in the world. So who knows what the prophecy means or who the prophecy's talking about currently. But Akamian thinks he knows. Lots of people think they know lots of things in this book.
so cryptic. And there's it's kind of related, but I wanted to get a theory. Well, not really a theory, but a guess because we're talking about Akami and whether or not he's going to tell everyone that Killis he believes is a harbinger of the second apocalypse. But in the beginning of chapter 4, there's a quote from him um, that doesn't sound like things are going so well. And later in the compendium of the First Holy War, it reads, "It seems a strange thing to recall these events, like waking to find I had narrowly missed a fatal fall in the darkness. Whenever I think back, I'm filled with wonder that I still live, and with horror that I still travel by night." So it doesn't sound like things go too well, uh, based on a couple of the clues there. So
But I mean, at least, well, I guess we can say that Akami at least might be still alive at the end of the Holy War, right? If he's writing the compendium. I don't know. That seems to be the implication, anyway.
yeah.
I'll only give a stone face. That's all you get to that.
And for you podcast listeners, he does indeed have a stone face right now. Confirmed.
I'm just laughing. But yeah, I mean, there are different people seem to have different opinions on whether Callus should be surrendered to the mandate or not. I mean, Callus obviously thinks or is trying to convince Akamian that no, he does not want to die as a prisoner of some crazy sorceress. Akamian's very torn. Esmenet is very sure, at least at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah,
When
she's back. She's back too.
Yes, well, we'll probably get to that, but she has a very firm opinion on Callus at the beginning when she hears about him from a commune. She changed her mind later, um, but she's like, "No, are you crazy? Like, of course you can sacrifice one person to potentially prevent an apocalypse. Like, what? How can you even? What's there to debate? Like, go ahead and do it."
She went from that logic to saying no in 3 days, maybe.
Not until after she runs it to someone else that she recognizes, which I'm sure we'll get to. An old friend of hers, well, not so old friend, but yeah, I think I wasn't sure if that spoke to, and she had also interacted with Killis after that too. So I wonder if he is starting to influence everyone.
I mean, maybe it gives you an idea of like the influence that Callus has in person, right? On the people, like Callus has spent a lot of time with the Kamian and trying to sort of endear himself to a Kamian, whereas like Esmond at the beginning, she's only heard him described from other people, and she doesn't understand the appeal that Callus has as a person and like personal contact.
I wonder what if Kellis has influenced these people this much. What do you think his dad's like right now, Steve? How do you imagine Moingus currently?
Yeah, I wondered that too, and I wondered if he does have that much influence, then why do not? Well, I get. So my initial reaction is, why don't more people know about him? But then if he does have this influence, then maybe he's pulling everybody's strings, and he's this is just his world, and we're all living in it. I don't know.
Or maybe he's
Poker
already
face.
dead. He might already be dead. You just never know yet.
Yeah, never know. There was a funny parable on page 26 if you're on the paper copy, but about the young bull and the cows. You guys remember that?
Yes, I do.
The Sylvendi parable or something like that.
Which basically, well, I guess it serves a lot of purposes, right? But I thought Kellis starts telling that story right when Akamian is about to tell Zynemus about the prophecy.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very suspicious that everyone got suddenly distracted by this anecdote that the parable that Kellis is telling. It's like I think Kellis probably knows that if like once the word gets out, that he's the harbinger of the apocalypse, things might not go as smoothly for him as they've gone so far. But the parable
And
itself is also interesting.
Mhm.
he's slipped up with Skios and like made a mistake, and he realizes that kind of, and you could tell at the end of chapter 4 that he knew he made a mistake. But that parable, I thought it was interesting how the Sylvendi, who it came from, had one meaning, and they like everyone derived their own meaning from it. Even like later on in the chapter, it might have been hard to notice, but when I came in, I think he was either with the Camian or with the girl he found first. He like alludes to that, saying that he was like the one. She was the one sheep he was trading for the 10 bowl or something. That was like pages and pages later, though. But words are tricky. Who's to say which one's right and which one's wrong? They all have truth in them.
Do they?
Everything has a little truth in it.
Yeah, maybe you can deduce from that perhaps we shouldn't take all these quotes and epigraphs as seriously as we sometimes do. Or maybe at least you can read them multiple ways.
Yeah, that's for anyone on the paper version. They refer to it again on page 52. It's actually about 20 pages later. I thought it was closer, but they do reference one lamb for 10 bulls. A priestess had told him once, as though she possessed a calculus to measure such things. One lamb for 10 bulls. At the time, Achamian had laughed. Now he understood. So yeah, they do reference it again.
And I think maybe that whole parable showed us that some truths are more powerful than others. Like Kellis's truth seems to be just hold more weight than other truths.
Yeah. Or maybe it depends on who the interpreter of the truth is more than what the truth actually is.
Hmm.
And then we get
Like,
to where they're like, I think Akamian's teaching him algebra, and he just like goes beyond Akamian's knowledge. And that's where like he gains Akamian's awe, is just going beyond him.
yeah, I thought obviously a common is in awe of Kellis's intelligence and insights, but like I wonder if the thing that really draws Akami into Kellis is just the fact that he seems to care about him as a person. Like there's this one scene where they're walking together and like all of a sudden Kellis asks about the name of Akamian's mule, and Akamian's so surprised and like touched by the fact that someone would be actually interested in him enough to ask about his horse.
Yeah, that was good. And that's what it seems like all of Kellis's teachings have been. When Akamian says he's being taught to, Kellis is just working his way into him somehow. And Akamian's answer to what his horse's name was cool too. Is he named him Daylight, because that's like when he gets away from his terrible wars in his dreams, or when he used to.
And had we met? I can't pronounce the Grandmaster of the Scarlet Spires before. Is this the first time you've met him? I think he had mentioned, right? Or
We did see him at the end of Darkness, I think, where he has an audience with the Emperor, and they discuss the Scarlet Scrolls engagement in the Holy War, and whether they will sign the Emperor's indenture. So we have briefly met him before. I don't, but I'm not sure if this that was from his POV or not. Um, and we also, well, actually, we also like also Kamian met Eleazeris in Momim when he marched.
Almost started a riot.
Yeah, he marched into Zynemus's camp. So we have met him, but I'm not. I don't remember if those two scenes were from Eleazeris's POV or not. Probably from other people's perspective, I believe.
I think we've got one chapter in the previous book through his eyes, contemplating Iocus, the somehow clear-skinned drug addict. That's the guy he
Oh, that's right.
trusts.
Right. That's right. You're right. I
There's a
did
part
forget
in
about
this
it.
where they're talking, and he it's like, "Come here, I need to feel the bones in your face."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But like,
yeah.
I mean, was the I didn't, I wasn't sure, but is like, was he suggesting that because Iokus's skin is transparent, he's probably not a skin spy because then you could just see the skin spy through the face
No, he's
or
saying
through his.
he didn't even trust his transparent skin. He wanted to put his thumbs where he could pry it open and see if it would pry.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. But I thought the scene with the Grandmaster of the Scarlet Spies was probably the funniest scene in this 4 chapters. The fact like he almost gets killed by this random low ranked sorcerer just because he's so arrogant. It's pretty funny.
Was the sorcerer just lashing out at him, or why did he try to fight the Grandmaster of the Scarlet Spires? He knew he was gonna lose, right? I guess he's chained up right now. We'll see.
Yeah, I think he just freaked out because Eliezer seemed to suggest that they were going to imprison him and question him. So I guess well, it's better at least to try escape, even if there's high chance he's not going to be able to, since he's facing the grandmaster of one of the most powerful schools in the Three Seas. But he gave it
So
a shot.
he realized what they were gonna do to him before they needed to tell him,
Yeah, I think so.
and now they want to kill a Camian or kill or capture.
I think capture, interrogate, maybe kill. But I mean, they want information from a commune, right? That's what their first meeting was about as well. They wanted information about Gishruni and the skin spice essentially. Like they were already suspicious of the mandate and of a commune, but now that they learn about Skaos, they're like basically certain in their mind that the mandate is behind it and a commune somehow responsible, and they want to eliminate the threat that he represents for them.
Or he
Although
knows.
I
He at least
yeah.
knows. I think from like them saying that he was like horrified of him at first. Maybe that was because he was gonna rat Acadian out if he was a mandate tool. But mandate tools would have the mark of sorcery.
True. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how he arrives. But I mean, well, I guess what they seem to be suggesting is there is some alliance between the Mandate and the Gisharim because they know that they think that Kamiya knew about the skin spy
Hmm.
and somehow collaborated with it. So I guess
It's
that's
just
there.
it's just there's some things he doesn't know. Nobody likes to not know things when you're in the middle of a holy war. And he's worried that he like marched the Scarlet Spires into doom, like the first Grandmaster ever to do anything crazy like this. So he has like a lot on his shoulders as the maybe most powerful person in the realm.
Yeah, you do get a sense from that scene that he's been pretty stressed about the decisions he's made recently, and he's starting to question whether joining the Holy War was the right choice.
So he just needs to figure this variable out through a Kamian somehow.
Poor Kamiya. uh, he just seems to stumble into trouble all the time.
He is
Yeah,
the fool.
Sure.
but he also has a pretty dangerous job. I would say.
Yeah.
And I think he prefers it to the life he would have lived otherwise. I think it talked about him being like a fisherman's son down at the village, so he would have just been another poor fisherman. Going to a magic school sounds enticing, I think, if you're a poor fisherman, but then
Yeah, it does, but I think he's sobered up pretty quickly.
it's true.
Yeah. Are you referring to the when he was drinking and he ran into Espinette?
No, I was more referring to his idea of like what the mandate is and what being a sorcerer is and the way he idealized it when he was before he joined the school.
Hmm.
But he does get very drunk in in one of these chapters. That is very true.
And I don't know if he's ever sobered up quickly. He got beat up and his face smashed. And that's how he
Yeah.
found the Esmet, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, he goes from um, looking for services of another woman or she seemed pretty young, to being beat up in the middle of the street and uh, finding Espinette again pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my favorite quote from this chapter was, I don't think I wrote it down, but it was something he was like thinking like everything is smoke, and then he was like, I should just get high. I
yeah,
really like that part.
yeah. He smells smoke and thinks about how I think he was talking about how the Slivendi like think life is smoke and only like actions are real. And then he's like, smoke, that sounds good. I should get some hashish. And then he just gets up and stumbles off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I don't think he got any hashish. He did walk through an opium den, but I guess he changed his desires with that long walk through the camp. I feel like he walked to like the stables first and then went and sat by some people at a camp, getting drunk with them until they started asking him a bunch of questions, and then decided to go to the brothel camps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to think that like you obviously have the army that's marching the soldiers, but then you have this another body of people, the camp followers there that are following behind it, and it's not just prostitutes. Like obviously, it's also like some like I don't know just people like merchants who sell things, or artisans like
I,
smiths and
yeah, yeah. I think it mentioned blacksmiths. I think as
Blacksmiths, Fletchers, slaves, lots of slaves.
oh yeah.
People just to wash the rich people's feet, like Lazarus's feet. Just like when you have an army that big, I think it's 200,000 people marching, you're going to have a large number of people to give them what a city would. Like it's just a giant moving city. Those people have money to spend.
yeah, I mean the army cannot provide all the services that you probably would want on a march like this.
And and I think Akamian like was walking with the baggage, and then when Kellis goes and finds him, oh, I forgot what he said. Something about how he likes to walk where there's fresh shit, because he's like in the back of the line where everyone else is already ahead of him. And then him and Kellis took their sandals off and walked in the fresh shit, I guess. Started teaching him.
I thought that was a meadow, but maybe I got it wrong.
When you got thousands of animals in front of you, there's just, it's turns the ground different.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen like a parade with a bunch of horses in it? They had to have people like follow behind and scoop up all the crap. That's only like 20 or 30 horses. Imagine 100,000 horses. I'm imagining this place like smelling the worst, like it smelling like the dump all the time.
Yeah, I guess you're not far from the truth.
All those things you don't consider. Speaking of, there was a line about a Cayman. He needed a sandal. I guess the sandal was falling apart, and he said, where can one get a sandal in a situation like this?" And those things you don't really think about, like you take for granted that you can get a sandal, but you know, maybe there's a sandal merchant, but little things like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's kind of a flashback to the first book when Esmenet is walking from Sumna to Momem and her sandal breaks. She doesn't really. She has to find a place to have it repaired, and then she gets stoned instead.
Yeah, she has other things to worry about shortly after that. But yeah,
I,
that's right. I forgot about that.
I guess it's a struggle everyone deals with. I think about my friends with like those plastic thongs when they like pop out. It's the same issue. Just got to throw them away and go buy some more. Glad we have awesome stores everywhere.
The
Oh, and I think it started out with like the Holy War marching, and they couldn't even agree on like what way to march. So half of them are like, we're going the straight path, and the rest went the long paved way, and the long paved way was a week faster. The Scarlet Spires, they don't care for time, so they're just strolling along. Lazarus just seems to like it.
Yeah, I don't know if he likes it. It's just I think the problem is they like it seems like they've brought like all their furniture with them.
Music
That's why
chair.
they're not traveling lightly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're like
I don't think.
weeks behind. It's crazy. Like they've barely left Momem and they're already so behind.
And then after the thing on the hill, I think Kellis kind of suggests not to wait for him, to just punish the Shroud Knights, because he just wants to see something bad happen to Sarsalis.
Yeah, I think at first there's a meeting between the great names, right? Where they discuss if they should wait or not. And there, Sabon is the one who's proposing they should march immediately, and then Comphis and Proyas, they all think they should stay because they need the Scarlet Spires in case the Kisharim show up. And then Kellis initially backs Proyas and convinces everyone to stay. But then, yeah, they meet up again with Salbon and with Tricelis, and Kellis changes his mind.
And that's once again like Kel is showing that the truth can be multiple things. Sabon saying that that earthquake destroying the city before they got there was like a bad sign that they're doomed, and Kellis rewrote what a sign could mean and just told them that it's like there's no turning back now. This was our last like turn back point, and now it's gone. It's a sign that he wants us to keep going. So obviously it's a bad sign when the city like it breaks down that hasn't like I think it said that dragons had been there and conquered it, and non-men had been there and conquered it, and the stones still stood, and then Mother Nature shut it down. And then they showed up. And it's just showing the way Kellis can command the truth into meaning whatever he chooses.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the statement is. He can carve out the thing he wants out of it, regardless.
He speaks statistics, so he can make it look good any direction he wants somehow.
Or religion, maybe. You know, different people interpret different people interpret the same text differently.
Yeah.
Which
Even
is kind
this
of what.
book.
Yeah.
And we get one chapter from Xerius, I think. Xerius Nitzara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get a little section there when Xerius has a little present from his mother.
Yeah. Who is very curious about Xerius's discovery of the skin spy and his war against the Kisharim.
And she seems to think, rightfully so, that she should not like side with the Phantom in this war. They should try to destroy the Sishoran because they like already have infiltrated their high council. So that's like open war as far as she's concerned. And I think he's just in denial, but he also thinks that. It just has to be what they think. But he doesn't ever want to fight with his mom. He just doesn't like his mom at all.
Oh, I was gonna say he likes her too much, but I guess both statements are correct.
At one point, he liked her too much. She couldn't control him anymore, though, remember? And that's when she lost interest.
Yeah. You kind of get the feeling, like, or I did anyway, with everyone's different motivations and plotting that everyone else is playing checkers and Kellis is playing chess. It's kind of impression I had. I know you both can't say too much, but because you know what happens. But.
Well, whenever it goes into his view, like, or even Nair's, who seems to know the Dunyan better than anyone else, it talks about how he is something more than a world-born man, and even these people with high ambitions, he said, were just the exact same as Lewith, who he dominated, used until he didn't need, and then left to die.
The reunion, I don't know if maybe I'm just a softie, but the reunion with Akka and Espinette was a kind of a touching moment in a book like this. I thought, just for those two to come back together. I know they found each other in a weird, in a strange way, but they did find each other, and it felt like, I don't know, it feels a little like they were. Um, they keep saying it's instead of you or I, they talk about we and us. So you guys didn't tell me it's a romance book. I didn't know.
It's a
Yeah, I
little
think
bit
they're.
of hope, I think, right? And a dash of hope in there.
What's going on? Why don't you warn me?
Yeah, I think they're one of the few people in this book or series who have a genuinely nice relationship between them. Or I mean, there it's a complicated relationship still, but they do seem to genuinely care for each other. And like yeah, I mean yeah, they reunite and their relationship changes quite significantly in that they basically decide to be together, which is not something they really were before. Like before, Kamen still was a sorcerer and she was a prostitute, but now as minutes, well, they sort of now she thinks of herself as what did they call a Kamen's camp wife, sort not exactly a wife, but there's sort of seem to have like formalized their relationship basically.
Yeah, he introduces her and kind of makes it official.
Yeah, and he introduces her to Callus, which seems to go well, I guess.
Yeah,
I,
he challenges her. Well, honestly, challenges, but he asks her questions that makes her um, kind of, I guess, question things. What is it?
yeah, he knows that she's really connected to Akamian, and so he wants her to like him currently. And she also, he knows that he's struggling to decide whether he's gonna tell the school or not. Like he's having that struggle currently. Like Kella sees it in his eyes, just like he sees what Sarway says before she says it now. So
Yeah.
after that encounter with Sarsalis, when he like saves her and asks her deep questions, then she changes her mind about him and tells Akka not to tell. So really, his whole goal is to have the mandate not learn because he just doesn't want to war with so many variables at once, unknown variables.
I mean, yeah, Kells definitely has a reason to want Esmanette on his side because she's the one who's been nagging at Akamian to just give up on Callus and give him to the mandate. So winning her over is a big deal for Callus, I think. And he kind of does it the same ways with the comment. He asks her like very personal questions about like her life, like and shows her that he cares about her experience, which I think like we've seen that that's something that Esminette lacks, like something she's lacked in her life, having people who genuinely care about her and who think that she matters. And I think that's something that Callus shows her that yes, she matters to him, her life matters to him, or her experiences matter to him. I think that's part of, at least a part of how he wins her to his side.
I think when Kellis or when Acamian is talking to her, like describing him before she's met him, he says that like he's never he's never a guest. He always makes you feel like a guest. So he like describes it when he he's telling Esmet something about the mandate or the world. He's like the teacher and she's the guest because she doesn't know and she's learning. Or when he says, when you tell me about your life, he doesn't reiterate, but when that like scene where she gets mad at him and just tells her about all the men she's been with, just to seemingly make him mad, and it worked. Like the, when she's saying that, Acamian is the guest in her like world, but somehow Kellis is never the guest. And when he stops her from Sarsalis, she like says he's standing right here with me instead of like being a guest.
Right. It's like he knows her better than she knows herself, or at least as good as she knows herself.
He
Which I
walks
guess,
he walks the
yeah.
conditioned ground, so all things have to bend to him. But in reality, it takes like all of his senses and force to walk this conditioned ground. Like in when he was reading Skeos's face and the people next to him so he could figure out who he was. He like read it their lips from all the way across the room. So like who knows how far away Kellis can hear too. Does he hear everything everyone in this camp whispers to each other? It's beneficial.
And we do see. I'm not sure if we've had you know, we've seen the skin spies, but we have a POV from their? Have we had their POV before? And was the end of chapter 3?
Yeah, there's another one. A new one, I think. A new skin spy in the prostitute camp, I think.
There was one before the thing called Sarsalis. This was just some girl that had been following Esnet apparently and just living right next to her in the camp, I guess,
In the camp, yeah.
and was an arm's length away. We didn't ever hear the name, but it was called the thing, whatever it was. So maybe it was like the thing called Sarsalis, or like the thing called Skios.
Yeah.
We never got a Skios POV either. Only Sarsalis and only this weird thing. Maybe two from the architect himself, maybe? Or was that from Esnet's point of view with him?
Thought it was from her point of view, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got the architect's POV. I think it was either from Esmanet's or Cecelis's perspective.
What what about when Enrao died? Because he was there. He definitely talked. I don't remember if it switched POVs or if it just slightly went away from Enrao's point of view after he died.
I think
I don't remember.
that chapter ends with Enrao jumping off the balcony. So I would say it was probably only Enrao's POV, but I might be wrong.
And then the other one would have been Sarsalis' POV when he was talking to the architect. The thing called Sarsalis was asking the architect what he was supposed to do, I guess. So we haven't got a POV of the Synthes yet.
Yeah, I don't think we have. I don't think we have had it.
In in the last chapter, there's something that struck me, and maybe it's nothing, but um, they reference the non-men and thinking that the stars are suns, and how ridiculous that is because obviously that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, imagine living in a void.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable.
Yeah.
Filled with stars. Oh my god.
And Acadian's probably one of the only people in the world that believes it. The other mandate, because they have the dreams, so they know that maybe someone with knowledge of the stars told them.
I love how careful you are when you certain things that you say. I was trying to gauge Katerina's reaction to what you're
It
saying
did.
to see.
It did talk about dragons. Like Acadian was like reflecting on his dreams in the battles, and the dragons fighting, and the non-men a little bit, and the Inkoi, and they're the ones who believe that because supposedly they came from another sun. It said. That's what it said.
That's what a comment said, yeah.
But most of the stuff in this can't be believed.
uh, and Kellis does recognize Sarcelus as being a skin spy quickly, right? He knows that. So, but he doesn't. I think he mentions he doesn't want to overtly um, make it known that he knows, but he like I think Danny you mentioned a few minutes ago. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to have to battle on a different front. He doesn't want them to know before they take action. He's just observing, and so he doesn't want them to know that he knows yet.
Yeah, he was like walking down the paths of probability if he like caught him right now, or if he let him go, or if he tried to make a deal with him. And the best thing he decided was just to pretend that he didn't notice currently.
Yeah, it seemed like Callus's hard drive got a little overheated when he was making that decision. Um, but yeah, he does conclude that for now, because he doesn't really know how powerful the consult is, or like how to what extent they've infiltrated the Holy War, that it's safer for him to just observe and learn more about the skin spies and more about the consult before he confronts them. And revealing that he can identify the skin spice would immediately put him in danger
Right.
because the consul would probably want to get rid of him as quickly as possible before the existence of the skin spice becomes more more widely known.
Yeah, he's got a lot of unknown variables to him, which are like rare for a Dunyan. He even says that the absolute is way deeper than the Dunyan had thought, which I guess was the realization that Moangus came to that got him kicked out of Ishul in the first place. They thought he was crazy because he didn't like have their same belief. Now Kellis realizes that the absolute and the logos is still real, but it's just deeper, more complex, and even more cutting than they thought it was somehow.
And it does almost seem like his hard drive overheated because it was one of maybe the only time that I can recall that he seemed even just a little bit vulnerable.
They were talking like about him, and he had zoned completely out, and they
Yeah.
had to like call him back into this reality. he had went far down the trance.
Yeah, and he like in the end, he's not really he kind of gives up on calculating computing the shortest path, right? Like when he's talking to Soban, he basically makes a decision based on chance when he tells Soban that he should march out to Giria with his army, because like ultimately it's just there, as you said, there are too many variables. The situation is too unpredictable. Like Kells doesn't have enough knowledge about the Holy War, but also about the Phantom, so he can't really predict what's going to happen if Saban marches. But he takes the chance and realizes that at least he might use that as an opportunity to get rid of Sicelis by sending him off to die fighting the Phantom if there is a confrontation between those two armies.
But that's one thing he realizes. That's one thing we know he realizes. When you read anything with Kellis talking or from his point of view, just know that it's like meant to persuade or break something. Always. It's never just like fun banter. There's no such thing as fun banter. Unless he wants you to like laugh and like him, then he'll give fun banter. That's just because he wants like feelings before he starts cutting you. The Dunyan only dominate. That's like all they do. So just think about that when you hear Kellis talking to someone or hyping them up. Just he's not a human. He's 2,000 years removed from human. That might be why he can beat up Nair and he can read people's lips and learn languages in 3 days.
Only Katerina can learn languages in 3 days. I mean, you need to watch out.
I mean, I wish that would solve a lot of my problems.
I can't in 30 years, so
Yeah.
you're doing way better than me or Steve.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So then chapter 4 ends with Espenet and Akka both agreeing that let's keep this a secret because Kellis is he's too awesome to tell anyone else about this.
Yeah.
He might even be more than the Harbinger. He could be more somehow than. I think they even say he might be more than Seswatha. He could be just like Seswatha, maybe more than Seswatha.
Yeah, he's more, but I mean, is that like more of what? Like more of Harbinger? Does that mean better or worse? You know.
And I think we've seen in this that he's like dismissed God as existing because if God existed, you can't like what comes before doesn't determine what comes after. So this whole prophecy to him is just has to be fake. Otherwise, the Dunyan logic like fails somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, he's already changed his mind about sorcery, so he might change his mind about other things, maybe.
It depends on how these variables all close when he chases them down. Not a lot has happened in these 4 chapters, really. It was pretty slow going, but I have a feeling stuff's about to start happening.
Yeah, I feel a little bit bad because we promised Steve a crusade, and there's not a lot of crusading happened in these 100 pages.
Stalled out waiting for the Scarlet Spires. slow ass sorcerers just
They ruin
getting
everything, don't they?
like having slaves wash their feet every night while they sit in luxurious chairs. What is war really? Will they have these chairs when they get to shimmy? How luxurious is this trip going to be? I mean, it's a long walk.
Guess we'll find out. Anything else you guys can think of from the first 4 chapters?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. We didn't mention Naor, but he didn't have a lot to do in these 4 chapters.
I think he talked to Camion once and thought about kind of telling him more and just kind of ignored him and just told him he knows he's teaching him, but does he know why he's teaching him? That's really all he said.
Yeah, you can.
Doesn't know why he wants to be taught, I guess.
Yeah, Naor is a little torn. Like, it's despite his best effort, it seems like he has some affection for the people of the Holy War, especially Proyas, and that he does thinking about warning them against Callus, but then the mission to kill Moengus it's too important for him to give it up, so he doesn't say anything.
And I did wonder the first 4 chapters. It seemed like this is a little bit more straightforward. I wonder if this was on purpose. Like this was intentional. Like he always planned to write the first book as this kind of. I've only read 100 pages, so I might be totally off base here. But from the first 100 pages, it does seem like this is a little bit like a change of style. A little bit. I wonder if that was on purpose, or if that was a change that he made after the first book because it was his first novel. I wonder if that was an intentional change or if he'd always planned for the second book to be a little bit more I don't know how to maybe just like traditional, I guess, or like a little free flowing. It's not as dense. I don't know if that was an intentional change.
I noticed a couple parts that were still semi philosophical, but I think I haven't read a lot, but I think this is more like a military style fantasy or whatever, where there's a group of people all on their way to do something. So it's kind of gonna have a different style in one sense. And now that they're all together and the world's been laid out, it can be less philosophical. And even maybe since the first book's philosophy is like intertwined in characters' inner dialogue, maybe they just like when things are happening rapidly, you just think less and act more.
Yeah, I think the first book is pretty extreme in the sense that it is a lot of exposition, and you do start with these 4 or 5 different plot threads that eventually converge. So it's kind of like in the Warrior Prophet, like you already hit the ground running, like you already know most of the things you need to know, I think, to understand like the main story of this trilogy. So I think just because, like, at least part of the reason why it reads more easily, it's just that you already gone through you did the exposition in the previous book, so this is kind of like the middle part where the actions started to come in and things are starting to happen, which may not seem like it from the first 100 pages, but things will happen. I can assure you of that. But also, I don't know, like, to your question, I also know that that Bakker had a lot less time to write the second book than he had for the first book, so maybe that might have played some role. Because I think he might have spent like 10 years writing The Darkness That Comes Before,
Oh
and
wow.
then had like 1 or 2 years to finish the whole trilogy.
Oh wow, really? Wow.
I think all through his schooling, he kind of already had the idea for The Darkness That Comes Before, and he just worked on that. And then I forgot what they call it. He did everything but the dissertation. I guess they didn't like accept his dissertation or something. So
Hmm.
he, that's what, 8 years of college, probably 10, 11 years of college he did. And then he got out and wrote The Darkness That Comes Before, and he got a publisher, and then had like commitment issues after that where it was required that he worked fast. But
Hmm.
to me, the writing doesn't seem really rushed. So maybe he just didn't get to fill it with as many little of his philosophical nuggets of argument like he liked to. That he had 10 years to like splatter into The Darkness That Comes Before.
Yeah.
But it remains quite philosophical. I think
Yeah.
this story is just like they're on the march, so it's like a go 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 kind of book.
Hmm.
Even if we for a moment stalled outside of the city waiting for a slow moving army. I can't imagine moving 200,000 people, like being in command of moving 200,000 people across like a foreign land that long ago. It would be quite the undertaking.
Yeah. Lots of animal poop too, as you mentioned before.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Human, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have toilets, porta potties. I can't. The olden days just had to really be rough. I'm glad we live in an era of deodorant and pleasant smells.
Yeah. Thankfully, I would love to talk to Baker and just ask him about all of his. But my ultimate goal is for him to chat with us on the last book when we were up with the last book. How awesome would that be?
It
So
would
That
be
would be
all.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
I think he's gonna come back, personally, but I've heard people say that having a daughter might have made like changed him.
hmm.
I don't ever think he wasn't like a hopeful person personally, though he might like believe humans are more computers than people. He has some crazy beliefs, but if you want to read about those, you just go to the 3 Pound Brain and bring a dictionary.
Yeah. So maybe if he's listening, maybe he'll be willing to come and come on the podcast with us for the last one of the trilogy.
It, it was nice to hear Brian Baker at least say something about him. His brother, when I think he shared a post that he made about that old world they created and all their D&D campaigns, and said that maybe like an old coat, R. Scott Baker will come back to The Darkness That Comes Before because it's warm and familiar.
That winter sweater, that we all have, a cozy winter sweater.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Yeah, it was great. I always learn so much more after talking to both of you. So thank you again for spending your time and coming to nerd out on the series. Of
Well, thanks for having me.
Yep.
course.
And thanks for nerding out with me as well.
My experience reading it the first time was totally different. Uh, Second time because of both of you. So thank you for helping me along because I'm not the brightest crayon on the box. So I need all the help I can get. So Daniel, if people want to connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
At the page chewing forums or just in the comments section of one of these videos, I'll probably see eventually.
Cool.
And we're all in this crown box together, Steve, so don't worry.
Okay, good. And Katerina, where can people connect with you?
Same. You also find me on the page doing forum, and I'm also on Instagram at the errand. if you want to chat.
Cool. Has anybody reached out to you there on Instagram? I wondered.
I don't think so. I'm not aware.
Oh,
If you did and I didn't respond, I apologize, but I don't think anyone has reached out. He reached out.
okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Well, cool. So we'll be back next Friday in the podcast to talk about the next part. I'm not sure quite yet how much we'll be talking, but I'm guessing at least until part 2. I think it's about 60 pages. So, but we'll be back next week to discuss the rest of it. So, or the rest of the next bit, not the rest of the book, the next little bit. So,
The next 4 chapters, maybe?
yeah, I think so. I think it's another 4 chapters. Part 2 is about 60 or 70 pages away. So,
Sounds good.
yeah. So we'll be back next week. So thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Talk to you next week.